What do you do when someone you love is in pain? This is the topic of today's podcast episode. You'll learn how to reach out to a loved one in pain with more clarity, more confidence, and more skill. Welcome to the Me From OCD Podcast. We're here to offer educational resources, coaching, and community support to help you say yes to your life by saying no to OCD. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your podcast host and OCD coach. I call on my experience as the mother of a son diagnosed with OCD when he was in college, a surgeon, and a certified life coach to help you get in the driver's seat of your life. My vision is to help you move towards a future in which OCD is nothing more than the background noise of your full life. This information is intended as an adjunct and not a substitute for therapy. So let's dive into today's episodes. One of the most challenging situations in the human condition unfolds when someone you love is in pain. Whether it's physical, emotional, or even financial pain, you might have a deep longing to fix things and make the pain go away. But not all problems can be fixed. This is especially true when the source of the pain is tied to unmanaged OCD. What do you do when you cannot fix things? As adults witnessing a person in pain, we choose between the same three basic options. We can turn away, we can observe from the sidelines, or we can reach out. Today, I want to share with you some tools to reach out to a person in pain with the confidence that you can help them in the most helpful way. My goal is to help you quickly improve your family's quality of life, find more love and strength and hope. To be clear, most resources about pain offer ideas about what the hurting person can do differently. And if your loved one is receptive, great. If, on the other hand, you push your OCD warrior to change and they resist, the ensuing power struggle can make a bad situation worse. This podcast is about what you can do differently. You'll learn what to say and do to deliver words of comfort, strength, and hope. Paradoxically, by focusing on yourself, you may well find a decrease in the intensity of your loved one's pain. I'm not sure I would have believed somebody who told me you can improve the condition of another without asking them to change. Yet, my decade-long experience with the ideas that I'm about to share with you today tell me that it's true. Here's my main message. You are a force for healing by calmly saying with words and actions, "You are not alone in your pain. I'm here and we will get through this together." Human connection is powerful medicine. I've helped many, many families with the ideas I'm about to share with you, and often the improvements occur quickly. Well, what do you say to somebody who's in pain? Well, your own experiences as a person in pain can inform what you do and what you say. Reflect on a situation in which you personally were in pain. Maybe it was even an episode in your childhood. The adults in your life may have genuinely wanted to make things better. However, their actions made things worse, and these are the things that we want to avoid. So let me give you an example. I've always loved animals, and I was particularly attached to my pet hamster. I would laugh every time I gave him a cracker with cream cheese and watched him fill his pouches with the treat. Well, one morning I went to his cage and found him lifeless. I'm going to guess that I was about 6 years old, and I was drowning in the pain of my own grief. Now, my mother responded to me the best way she knew how. Unfortunately, almost everything she said and did made things worse rather than better for me. Now, I'm not trying to throw my mom under the bus. I know she did her very best. She was reacting to my pain in the same way her parents reacted to her pain. During her own childhood, she learned that certain feelings like sadness or anger were dangerous. If you plugged into a person in pain, you could short out. She learned to get back to safety by minimizing her exposure to the pain of others. Okay, so what kinds of things make it worse for a person in pain? Again, call back to your own experience. What did people say and do that made you feel more alone in your pain? Well, maybe your parent became the judge and ruled that you were wrong for having the pain. Why are you making such a big deal about this? You feel sad when people die, not when animals die. Your parents may have tried to distract you from the pain. Oh, how about if we just go out and get an ice cream cone? Your parent might have reached for the quick fix. I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's go out and buy you another hamster. Your parent may have physically separated from you and your pain. If you're going to cry, young lady, do it in your room. Your parent may have reached for ABC solutions, accuse, blame, and criticize. I told you this would happen, or what's wrong with you, or you know better, or you know that you get like this when you're hungry. Why don't you just pay more attention to your eating? Your parent may have become the timekeeper. You've been sad for long enough. Stop already. Your parent may have become the philosopher. Well, animals die. If you have animals, this is just what happens. Your parent may have even gotten angry. Enough already. Snap out of it. In fact, you may have learned it's too dangerous to go to your parent with pain. Well, what do all of these actions have in common? They all communicate. You shouldn't have those feelings. You're wrong for having painful feelings. It's not as bad as you think, and just get over yourself. All of these approaches build walls between the two of you. They make you feel more alone in your pain. And this brings me to an important pain formula, and here it is. Pain plus isolation leads to suffering. People can manage a tremendous amount of pain. What's intolerable is to be alone in the pain. Many of my patients on whom I operated said that they had the most physical pain in the wee hours of the morning. Well, some of that may have to do with medication dosing. It may have to do with the fact that the people who loved them were usually asleep. My patients felt alone. Now, people with neurodivergent brains often feel alone in their pain. Neurotypical people simply don't understand people with OCD or autism or ADHD. Further, the source of their pain is often something that cannot be fixed. People can be scared of people in pain. They don't know what to say or what to do. They worry that they'll make things worse. The safe choice, our brain tells us, is to withdraw from the person in pain. In your own family, you might think, well, my job is to get my loved one with OCD into the hands of a trained professional. I'm here to remind you that you do not have to be a trained professional to make a positive difference to a person in pain. And here's the proof. Do you remember when your kids were young, or maybe even when you were young, and skinned your knee? You went to your mom, who cleaned up the injury, put on a Band-Aid, kissed it, and said, "There, all better." And it really was. I call this mommy magic. And what's the key to mommy magic? It's the human connection. I often wonder if Band-Aids work as a reminder of this mommy magic, even when mommy is not there. And of course, there's daddy magic too. Mommy magic and daddy magic demonstrate the power of the human connection. The alleviation of suffering is like making a fire. You can't make a fire with just one log. The fuel for the fire is the gas release between two hot logs. Your goal is creating this space between you and the person in pain for this all better magic to happen. Again, human connection is powerful medicine. Well, what are some ways to truly make things better for a person with OCD and pain? Psychiatrist, ADHD expert, and my friend Dr. Ned Hallowell says we all need one person who gets us and believes in us. They're there when things get tough. It can make all the difference in the world. He says that one person for him was his first grade teacher. When somebody you love has a neurodiverse brain, you can be that one person. Exactly what can you do when somebody with a neurodivergent brain is in pain? It's to say with your words and your actions, I see you. I hear you. You're not alone. You're not broken. I'm here with you, and I trust that you can get through this. In my house, we had a saying, to every problem, there's a solution. Sometimes in the thick of it, we couldn't find the solution. But we kept on moving forward with the trust that if we just kept looking, we'd find it. I'd like to share with you a way that you can make things better for a person in pain. I call it the connection prescription. Now, you don't have to be a healthcare professional to learn the skills and tools to do this. People with no formal medical training can make a positive difference to a person in pain. And you can do it without shorting yourself out. What's the evidence that you can make a difference even as a lay person? You may be certified in CPR. We know that in cities in which people are trained in CPR, the outcomes for individual patients after a heart attack is better. Lay people with specialized training can make a difference. About a decade ago, long before my son was diagnosed with OCD, I challenged myself. Could I create a simple set of instructions that helps people with no formal medical training to make a positive difference to a person in pain? And I came up with the connection prescription. Think of it as emotional and verbal CPR. It helps you trust that you're equipped to make a positive difference. OCD champions can make a huge difference in the lives of OCD warriors. The connection prescription is especially helpful when a person with OCD is in pain, and here's why. The obsession themes of OCD, those unwanted and persistent thoughts, represent different forms of danger. You'll get contamination and you'll die. You'll hurt somebody else or you'll hurt yourself. You'll engage in taboo sexual behavior. No one will like you and you'll be all alone. When we sense that we're in danger, our body's prepared to fight, flee, or freeze. This happens without a single conscious thought on your part. It's mediated through the autonomic nervous system. Now, false alarms as well as true alarms can trigger this danger response. But whether or not it's a false alarm, you witness the rapid heart rate and shallow breathing of the danger response and say, wow, my body's reacting to danger. This is proof that there really is danger out there. But when you're in this physiologic state, you don't have access to the part of the brain that's best at solving hard problems. And that would be your prefrontal cortex. In order to access it, you must first calm down the nervous system. For people with OCD, their compulsions become the path back to safety. It becomes the way out. However, in the end, compulsions just make OCD worse. Further, many people with OCD believe, I can't trust myself. I can't necessarily believe the things that I see or hear. I can't trust my memory. I can't distinguish between what's real and true and what is not. This makes it even more difficult to discern between a real threat and a false alarm. So there are some special challenges in responding to a person with OCD in pain. Let's say this person with OCD is someone you love, Maybe it's your adult child or your partner or your friend. You have a special challenge too. When we humans are in the presence of somebody who thinks that they're in danger, our own autonomic nervous system prepares us to fight, flee, or freeze too. This happens automatically. Remember, the autonomic nervous system responds without any conscious thought on your part. Now, this makes complete evolutionary sense. If one person is in danger, the person standing right next to them could be in danger too. So if you're trying to avoid being a saber-toothed tiger's dinner, this communication of danger is a good thing. However, when the perceived danger is amorphous or existential, this danger response actually harms you. So the solution to these threats reside in the prefrontal cortex, and you don't have access to that part of your brain unless and until you calm down your autonomic nervous system. Now, you can learn the skills and tools to return your dysregulated nervous system to a state of regulation. Then you have access to your prefrontal cortex. So the way you show up to the person in pain matters. Your unmanaged human brains puts you in a state of compassion. You feel what the other person is feeling. You reflect their mood and emotional state. If they're feeling like they're in danger, you're going to feel like you're in danger too. You have the best chance of being helpful when your nervous system remains regulated, even when the person you're helping is dysregulated. This is true empathy. Now, you're not born with empathy. You learn this skill. Firefighters and police officers and soldiers can learn to enter life and death circumstances while maintaining access to their prefrontal cortex. So many people with neurodiverse brains find themselves in dysregulated states. If this is somebody you love, your first step is understanding your own nervous system and acquiring the tools to recognize dysregulation and then return to a more regulated nervous system. This is the foundational principle of the connection prescription. So let me quickly go through the steps so you too can get an overview about how to respond to people in pain. Step number 1, set the emotional thermostat. I remember my very first day on the hospital wards when I was a medical student. Over the loudspeaker, I heard code blue, 725, repeat code blue, 725. Well, I knew what that meant. A patient in room 725 was facing a life-threatening situation. Maybe they stopped breathing. Maybe their heart stopped beating. The next 10 minutes mattered. So I ran to the staircase and ran up 7 floors. When I arrived at room 725, the room was just packed with people wearing white coats. I went to stand beside my resident instructor. He leaned over and asked, "What's the very first thing you do at a code?" I repeated what I learned. Airway, breathing, circulation, the ABCs. He said, "Wrong. The very first thing you do at a code is to take your own pulse." He was saying that in emergency situations like this code, the first thing you want to do as a responder is calm your nervous system. When you set your own emotional thermostat to calm, you're in a better position to help. You have access to your prefrontal cortex. You can help the person you love catch your calm rather than you catching their chaos. People with OCD often have the experience of being in an emergency situation. It often feels like life and death to them. This is just part of the condition of having OCD. When you have evidence that your OCD warrior is in pain, take a moment to get calm. Keep the calm rather than catch the chaos. Take your own pulse first. When you set the emotional thermostat, You bring with you a sense of safety. Step number 2, set your intention. As you connect with somebody in pain, begin with clarity about your intention. This impacts how you show up. Now, when someone you love is in pain, you'll have a human desire to make the pain go away. Efforts to fix things usually backfire, as we discussed earlier. The best way to make the biggest impact is to become an empathic witness. You say with your words and your actions, you are not alone in your pain. I'm here, I see your pain, and I trust that you are going to get through this. Step number 3, put the other person in center stage. Imagine that your encounter with this person in pain is happening in a Broadway theater. There's one chair in center stage under the limelight. So you get to decide who goes in the limelight, you or the person in pain. We have a natural human tendency to put ourselves in the limelight and make this about us. You may be listening to the person with OCD in pain and think, how did I contribute to this problem? Instead, in that moment, put the other person in the limelight. This is about them. Watch and actively listen, just like you would if you were going to see Hamilton. A friend told me about a situation in which he took his wife into a doctor appointment. They got some very bad news. There was about an hour-long car ride home, and his wife had back pain, so she was lying on the back seat. David said that as he was driving, he was thinking about what this meant for him. What was he going to do without her? But his thoughts were interrupted when he heard the sounds of his wife crying. He knew right then and there that he needed to be there for his wife. Her illness impacted him too, but he could deal with that later, out of the presence of his own wife. A lot of times we listen enough to figure out what to say. Instead, listen to hear. What is this other person saying and thinking? Step number 4, access your own wisdom. As you're helping with somebody in pain, drop into your own body to gain insight about what's happening. How are you feeling? What are you noticing in your own body? I get this special tightness in my gut when I'm talking with my son's OCD monster and not my son. This is important information. Many political leaders say, I don't negotiate with terrorists. I see the OCD monster as a terrorist, and I'm not going to negotiate. So when I get that clutching in my gut, I comment on it. I can say something like, I think I'm talking to my son's OCD monster. Could I please speak with my son? Step number 5, return to the here and now. As you listen to this OCD warrior in pain, you might be catastrophizing about what will happen in the future. Oh my God, she's already put in so much work and I'm not seeing much of a difference in her life. Will my child ever be able to work or love or find peace and joy? If you find yourself in the future, return to the present moment. Remind yourself that you are safe in this moment. The person you love is safe. These big feelings are not dangerous. You can live through them. In fact, you can deal with pretty much whatever you face in the moment. Sometimes, especially as you parent, your child's current circumstance may trigger unhealed episodes from your past. If your 6-year-old didn't get invited to a birthday party, it might remind you about the time that you were excluded. But here's the interesting thing. When we stumble upon unhealed episodes, we become the person we were at the time of the initial event. So if that birthday party happened at age 6, You are now running the brain software that was running when you were 6. And then it's hard to be helpful to that other person in pain. So if you find yourself triggered, this is a completely human experience. You can learn to identify times when you're responding to the past instead of the present. Step number 6, play it safe. So think of yourself as a first responder. There are situations that you can manage, and there are other situations that are way over your head. We all have limits. Sometimes we're not the right person to respond to a person in pain, and you best serve others when you know what your limits are. I remember a neighbor asking me to come over to take a look at her husband. He was describing a tight chest and problems breathing. Now, if you've ever been with a person having a panic attack, you know that it can look just like a heart attack. I said to my neighbors, I think this is most likely a panic attack. However, I cannot say with certainty that you're not having a heart attack. Let's err on the side of caution and call an ambulance and rule out a heart attack. My guess is that you're going to be calling me and complaining about how expensive it was to go to the emergency room for a panic attack. It's safer to manage a panic attack as if it's a heart attack rather than manage a heart attack as if it's a panic attack. So play it safe. Put the decisions in the hands of the expert who have access to the right tools. Getting the right help is an act of courage, not an admission of weakness. Now, I want to just touch briefly on a very important point. We know that when the pain of OCD becomes overwhelming, some people lose hope. They may see suicide as an option. You can always ask a person in pain, have you thought about ending your life? Do you have a plan? Now, some people steer away from this question because they worry that they're going to plant this idea inside somebody's brain. This does not have to happen. It is very important to be able to distinguish harm obsessions from true suicidal thoughts. And unfortunately, untrained therapists have a hard time making the distinction. So this is why it's so important to create a dream team and have an OCD trained therapist on your team. Okay, step number 7, know where you're headed. I love playing Chinese checkers. It's fun to set up the board so that I can do 7 jumps in a single move. However, when I focus on doing that, I lose sight of the bigger picture, getting all of my marbles to the other side. When you live with somebody with unmanaged OCD, you and your family members make moves that the OCD monster commands. You get temporary peace in the house when you do that. However, in the long run, you are best served when you decide that your destination is to be freed from OCD. That gives you the courage to tolerate the anger that your OCD warrior may direct at you when you decide that you're no longer going to participate in the compulsions. When you're clear about where you're headed, it's easier to make good choices in the moment. Your commitment to helping yourself and other family members be freed from OCD can inform your actions even when the choices are hard. That's what I've got for you today. I believe that the connection prescription is a powerful tool that can help you and your family be freed from OCD. Now, I am so committed to this that I'm offering an entire online course called The Connection Prescription to help you learn the skills and tools to translate these ideas into action. You'll take away a better understanding into how the nervous system works. You'll learn tools to regulate the nervous system. You'll get insights about how the nervous system of people with neurodiverse brains are different than people with neurotypical brains. You'll find ways to connect with yourself. And all of this will help you connect with the people you love who are in pain. So you'll come away from this course with more trust in your own abilities about how to confidently respond to a person in pain. I'll leave a link in the show notes so that you can learn more about this offering. As always, thank you for your listening ear. I'm honored that you're investing your most precious asset, your time, educating yourself about how to be freed from OCD. And if no one's told you yet today, I admire your courage. Managing OCD may be the hardest job I've ever had. Whether you're an OCD warrior or an OCD champion, you are not alone. You have everything it takes to infuse your family with more love, more joy, and more hope. There is always the possibility of a better tomorrow. You've got this. And please click on the link below to learn more about our upcoming Connection Prescription online course. Scholarships are available.